You're listening to the Toolstation Western League podcast with Ian Knockolds and Tom Hiscott.
Welcome listeners to episode 32 of the Toolstation Western League podcast with me, Ian Knockolds, and I am delighted to be joined on the line by Tom Hiscott, the author of the Western League Bulletin. Hello Tom, how are you?
Yeah, not doing too bad, thanks. Yourself?
Not bad. Had a very pleasant wedding that I attended on Saturday, which kept me out of the football grounds, but hopefully that will be something that I remedy this coming weekend. I'm rather looking forward to the clash of Warminster Town and Radstock Town, which is going to be happening not a million miles away from where I live, so I thought I'd be taking that in, but nothing to report this weekend other than much revelry and over imbibing. So I'm very keen to hear from you on the rundown of the weekend's matches. But before we get into that, we need a little bit of the old yellow ticker tape. I don't know whether are you aware of breaking news in the world of grassroots football?
It depends what you're going to tell me, but I don't think so.
Well, have you heard about sin bins?
Vaguely, but not recently, so you're probably going to enlighten me.
Well, the FA have made an edict has been passed down from the Mount. A tablet of stone has was sent to the Western League earlier this month, and the FA are confirming that temporary dismissals will be introduced at steps 5 and 6 of the National League system from the 2019-2020 season. This follows the unanimous motion of Step 5 and 6 leagues to be considered for temporary dismissals at a meeting of the leagues on Sunday the 30th of September 2018. So this has been in the pipeline for some time, and indeed I've noticed some discussion on social media about the prospect of sin bins, which I think many people who keep an eye on grassroots football anticipated coming in at a much lower level than Step 5 and 6. We didn't think that necessarily Step 5 and 6 would see the introduction this quickly, but it has indeed happened. And we talk about temporary dismissals, but of course we are talking about sin bins. Players being sent to the bin. I believe the initiative is very much designed to deal with dissent, but of course I'm sure that there will be more information coming out of the Football Association. Indeed, the FA are very keen to address clubs at the sort of the earliest convenience with a rundown of how the new initiative is actually going to work. It has been piloted, of course, in a number of leagues, but it certainly hasn't been piloted in our league, and I'm sure many people listening to this will have questions about how it works and under what circumstances it would be appropriate to send a player to the bin. But it looks like sin bins will be with us from next year, so if you haven't already heard it, then you heard it here. Possibly not first, but maybe second. So there you go. Anyway, let's get back to the important business of actually talking about football going on in the pitch as opposed to rule making. We look back, of course, we're looking at the fixtures over the last week as well as at the weekend. There was a Premier Division game on the 12th of March, Shortwood drawing at home with Brislington, but a big game. And that's no disrespect to Shortwood and Brislington, but a very big game taking place on Wednesday, the 13th of March in the Premier Division, a proper six-pointer between Plymouth Parkway and Bitton.
Yeah, two of the big guns coming together. This was the game in hand both sides had on Willand, obviously top of the table, and it was Plymouth Parkway who ran out 3-0 victors at Believer Park, so another strong home showing from them. Tegan Rosenquist, who scored a couple recently, brilliant name. He gave them an early lead, and then it was Mike Williams, made it 6-6 for him to double the tally after half an hour. And then it was Shane Crack in the second half, adding a third. So yeah, Plymouth Park were running out 3-0 winners against Bitton. As you say, a really big game.
Yeah, big game, big result in the grand scheme of things in the Premier Division, but still plenty of football to be played. Indeed, of course, those two sides will meet each other before the end of this month for the return leg of that league encounter. We had a bit of Friday night football as well, didn't we, Tom? A First Division clash, a Wiltshire derby, and this game got more people to it than that Plymouth Parkway Bitton one we've just talked about.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend, doesn't it? These Friday night games getting big crowds. Despite the horrible weather that we had on Friday evening. I know it was a bit wet, a bit windy, and not the most pleasant evening, but 184 down there to see caution. Unfortunately, the home side did fall to a 2-1 defeat against Warminster, who are obviously in cracking form at the moment. But they did go ahead. Caution, Josh Bright curling the ball into the top corner. Really good goal. I think there's a clip on social media, and one of the goals of the season potentially. But Warminster managed to come back and gain the 3 points. And Jake Wright forcing home an equaliser at the end of the first half before Martin Johnson then struck the winner to give them that 5th win from 6 games.
Yeah, they're in fantastic form, aren't they, at the moment, Warminster? And I mean, going to Corsham and winning is no mean feat, so a pretty special result there. We now move on, of course, to the main body of matches that happened on the weekend of Saturday, the 16th of March. Quite a few games to talk about in the Premier Division, and we start off with Bitton, of course. They lost out in the week. Could they bounce back against another high-flying side in Westbury United? Yeah,
as you say, huge week for Bitton, big games up and down the board, and they did manage to bounce back. A 3-1 win home to Westbury, very much needed. Moved 6 points clear of their opponents following the victory, so obviously proved how important that game was toward the top of the table. 4 minutes it took for Bitton to break the deadlock. Ben Bammont scoring early doors to take his tally to the season to 30 in all competition. Fantastic effort from him. Then a long-range effort from Ibrahima Diallo, doubled the advantage, with Scott Bryce making it 3-0 in the opening minute of the second half, so pretty much game wrapped up then. But Westbury managed to fight back a little bit. Dan Wharton sent off for Bitton, the keeper, for bringing down Callum Demkiv, and Demkiv brushed himself down to fire home the penalty and to add another goal to his ever-growing tally as well. But Bitton managed to hold on for the final 25 minutes with 10 men, and ran out 3-1 winners, and rebounded perfectly from the midweek defeat.
Another two sides who've been battling it out towards the top end of the Premier Division table are Bradford Town and Buckland Athletic, and there was plenty of goals on display for this one.
Yeah, indeed. A 2-2 draw, and a big crowd, a 3-figure crowd down there. And Ryan Bush header put Buckland ahead pretty early, but then goals from Martin Lenihan and Dan Cotter managed to turn the game in Bradford's favour. And just as it looked as though Bradford would be heading to all 3 points, Dan Harrison sent off for the visitors, but they managed to find a really late equaliser 5 minutes from time. Bush, who'd opened the scoring earlier in the game, he popped up right place at the right time and completed the double, and grabbed a crucial point for Buckland, and that's how it finished 2-2 down there.
Now, Odd Down and Clevedon, two sides who've been in and out of form, I think it'd be fair to say, this season, and this was another close encounter.
Yeah, a good win this for Odd Down. 8 matches without a win coming into this one, and they were behind for a good period of the match. Harry Smith giving Clevedon the lead before half-time. But then a new name, Brandon Benjamin, who scored twice in the final 20 minutes to complete a pretty dramatic comeback for Odd Down to, as I say, end a pretty long run without a win. So a good 3 points for the Bath side.
Now, the biggest crowd of the day was at Plymouth Parkway, which is not surprising. They took on Bridport, and of course, for those of you who listen regularly to the podcast, you know we spoke to the Plymouth Parkway manager recently, and he said during that interview that Bridport were going to be a tough game, and so it proved, Tom.
Yeah, this was not wrapped up until late on. A 2-1 win for Plymouth Parkway, so they sneaked their way to another victory. But this obviously that winning feeling is not going to go away. I didn't feel like at the moment, showing no signs of letting up at all. Took them 40 minutes to break down a tough Bridport defence. Ryan Lane teeing up Mike Williams, a man in form. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, we made it 6-6 in midweek, so obviously took his tally to 7-7 on the weekend. Then a corner early in the second half from Jordan Trott. Don't believe it. Touched him on the way in. Conflicting reports from that one. I think Jordan's trying to claim the goal. And that put Parkway 2-0 up. But as you say, Bridport tough nut to crack, and they managed to get a goal back midway through the second half through Ed Butcher, and threatened late on, but were unable to quite grab the equaliser. So Parkway, the winning run rolls on.
And the last game we're going to be looking at now in the Premier Division is Roman Glass St George. Not been enjoying the greatest of seasons, but obviously they came up last season. Chipping Sudbury Town, they've had some famous afternoons in recent weeks against some of the top boys in the division, and they came up second best at Roman Glass.
Yeah, they did. Roman Glass, and even more difficult form than Odddown. A winless run of 13 matches they were enduring before this one. But yeah, win over the local rivals, 3-1 victory, goalless first half there. So yeah, most of the action coming after the break. Lewis Wentland putting him ahead, Roman Glass with a free kick before Nathan Lakeland doubled the advantage pretty soon after. Sodbury managed to get back into the game. George Box halving the deficit, but then later on, Ken Oney scored quite a lot of goals last year. Not heard his name as much this season. He managed to score in stoppage time to wrap up the victory for Roman Glass, thanks to a really good cross from Reece Hodgson. So yeah, a 3-1 victory for Roman Glass.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome back to the Toolstation Western League podcast for the second time this season. It's Andy Gurney, the manager of Roman Glass St George. A 3-1 win over Chipping Sodbury at the weekend. Andy, you must be really happy with that.
Yeah, it was one that obviously we very much needed. It's been a very difficult few months with obviously picking up points, becoming very difficult. But yeah, it was a big game for us, one that we had to win, and we got another big game coming up Saturday now.
You have. I mean, it had been a while since your last win. So, I mean, I know it sounds like a silly question in some respects, but how important was it that you managed to get that result on Saturday?
Yeah, it was huge for us, because the longer it goes, the more difficult it becomes. In the case, really, of the last couple of months. There's been a lot of games where we've actually played quite well, really, and not been able to get results. We've only had one real poor performance, which was against Plymouth Parkway at home. Other than that, we've played reasonably well. Getting the goals has been a problem for us, really. So, fortunately, we managed to put the ball in the back of the net on Saturday.
Now, obviously, you came up last season. How have you found life in the Premier Division? Has it been harder than you thought?
I think it has. I think it's been a factor of things, really. We had a good start, and then we did pick up quite a few injuries and things, and it's coincided with the start of our poor run, really. But we've had everyone back now for the last at least 6 weeks or so, so, that excuse had to go out the window, really, and it's difficult. I think losing can become a habit as much as winning, like it was for us last season, but yeah, it's been tough, and it's been good in a way of learning about the league and seeing what we need to improve on for next year. Hopefully, if we achieve what we need to achieve now, which is get enough points to ensure we stay in the division.
Now, if we look at the teams fighting it at the top of the table, you've seen quite a fair bit of Willand, Plymouth Parkway and Westbury in recent weeks. What do you make of those teams at the top of the table? And specifically, I mean, how much of a gap do you think exists between those teams fighting out at the top and those teams fighting it out at the bottom?
I think Plymouth Parkway were the team for me that stood out in terms of obviously having very good players, but also being very physically strong, big, strong side, well organised. And I think they were the team that stood out. Like I say, we've matched most teams in other games and just not been able to get the goals we need when those chances come along. But certainly Plymouth, for me, probably by far and away the outstanding team that we've come up against, I think.
Can you see them going all the way this season?
I think it's very tight, isn't it, with them and Willand, but I think Plymouth have been on an amazing run, really, haven't they? And it would be no surprise to me if they end up finishing at the top of the table. Looking
at the rest of the season from your perspective, obviously you're going to want to get as many points on the board as possible. I mean, have you set a target for the side, or have you got a target in mind that you'd be happy with for come the final day of the season?
I think first and foremost is just making sure we get enough points to stay in the division. Now, obviously, it would be very nice to have a little run towards the end and finish as high as we possibly can. But at this moment in time, with the run we've been on, I'd probably take finishing where we are now, and that would mean we're still in the division for next year. But obviously, week by week, if we can pick those points up, it would be great to finish as high as we possibly can. But like I say, the main aim is to make sure we stay in the division.
Now, Brislington up next, and that won't be easy for you, will it?
That'll be another very difficult game. obviously in a very similar position to ourselves. They'll be thinking the same things to get those points on the board to make sure that they stay up. So it's going to be a very difficult game. I'd imagine it'll be a very tight one, and it'll be one in which we need to take those chances when they come our way. Be nice and strong and organised, and hopefully we can get the right result. But it'll be a very, very tough game, one in which, like I say, both teams will be giving everything they got to get those points.
One final question for you, Andy. It's come to light that next season we'll see sin bins introduced into the Western League for the first time. How do you feel about that initiative?
I did hear it the other day, and I've not really heard enough about it to make a comment on it really, but how that would work, I don't really know. I mean, for example, the goalkeeper, how do you put the goalkeeper in a sin bin, you know? I don't know how that one would work if that situation arose, so I don't know. I'm not sure about that one, to be perfectly honest.
It's a bit of a Johnny Nash then, Andy. There's more questions than answers.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's like people are looking for things to change, and I don't know why really, because I think the way we are works, and why try and change it, but who knows, we shall see.
Andy, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and all the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Boss, we need some supplies for tomorrow. Oh, what's that?
It's the helping hand from Toolstation.
But it's,
A hand, yes. It's showing me around the Toolstation website.
Nice.
Yeah, I've selected paints, cables, sealant and plumbing fittings. I can check up to the minute stock, hit this button, thanks hand, and it's ready to collect in 20 minutes. So get the van.
Can't the hand?
It can't reach the pedals.
Fair enough.
Click and collect. Another helping hand from Toolstation. Your best mate for the job.
And now we move on to the First Division, and we kick things off with Ashton and Backwell United. They were at home to Sherborne Town, who've been on a very, very good run of form. Tom, did they continue it?
Indeed. So obviously Ashton had moved up into third spot last week, but no sooner they'd done that than they had to take on a Sherborne team who, might be sitting in the bottom half, but they are one of the better teams in the division at the moment. This was a match-up between two of the informed teams. And it was Sherborne who ran out 2-1 victors. The away side going ahead, Matt Brown, before Jordan Bishop then managed to grab an equaliser for Ashton 3 minutes before the break. So it was 1-1 going into half time. But then with 2 minutes left, so really late on, this one was decided to a tightly fought contest. Hayden Hodges fouled in the area, and Josh Williams stepped up, dispatching the penalty to secure all 3 points for Sherborne.
Now, Bishop's Lydeard against my own Devizes Town, and this was something of a one-sided affair, Tom.
Yeah, a little bit. Just the 6 for Lydeard on this occasion. So they're now averaging 5 goals a game over the last couple of weeks. I think they've gone 5-4 and back up to 6 for their last 3 goal tallies. So doing extremely well in front of goal. They've got their shooting boots on at the moment, and put Devizes to the sword at Coppleton Road on Saturday. A 6-1 win. Harry Miller scoring twice, and then also goals for Zach Ryder, Ryan Brereton, Luke Bryant, and then also Ben Heptich. So another big win for Bishop Lydeard.
Well, I'm delighted to welcome to the Toolstation Western League podcast Gary Brown, the chairman of Bishop's Lydeard. Previously, we spoke to manager Brett Andrews, but on this occasion, we get to have a chance to talk to the chairman just to find out a little bit more about the life at the club. Gary, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us.
No problem, mate. No problem at all.
Obviously, in our conversations with Brett, we talk very much about your first team, but actually there's an awful lot going on at Bishop's Lydeard than just Western League football. Can you tell us a little bit about the structure and the number of sides that you run at the club?
Yeah, we're operating. We operate with 21 teams at the football club, from soccer school right the way through to the adult section, and that's both genders. So we've got a very strong girls section that started under 11, and the objective there is to feed into the ladies' first team longer term. So we've got, Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoons are extremely busy at the club with ladies and kids football, and then Saturday afternoon is obviously Western League football, which is bringing hope to a lot of the younger age groups that come up. So the whole philosophy of the club is to provide a safe and fun environment for the youth team to practice and express themselves. So on a Saturday afternoon, it's a break from that into competitive football.
With the number of teams that you have at the club, do you see a benefit in terms of your Saturday attendances? Will people who are involved in the other sides with the club, will they stay on of an afternoon to cheer on the Western League side?
We get a lot of the kids coming up to watch football. Obviously, part of their membership is free entry into the game, and we see a lot of parents up there on a Saturday afternoon. For me, it's great to see the kids up there watching, and it's something for them to aspire to, really.
I mean, looking specifically at the women's and girls' teams, how many people would you say have you got involved in that side? And I don't just mean on the playing side, because of course you've got people who are coaches and involved in support functions as well.
The ladies' side is run by a lady called Judy Boker, and she's the director of girls and ladies football at Bishop Lydeard, and she operates with 7 or 8 coaches through the girls section. And the girls' side, believe it or not, is better supported a lot of the time than the boys' football. So it's good to see young ladies out there practicing the game as well as young boys.
Now, if we look specifically at your involvement with the club, how long have you been involved with Bishop's Lydeard?
I've been involved for a long time as a player, but actually on the committee, I've been involved for 19 years. So I took on the secretary's role when the previous chairman, Peter Durman, took on the chairman role. So I've been involved for 19 years at the club, both playing and secretary, and then for the last 4 or 5 years is chairman.
One of the reasons it's fantastic to have you on the podcast is it obviously gives us an opportunity to find out a little bit more about the role of a Western League chairman. I mean, we normally hear from the managers, and of course we're very much focused on what goes on the pitch. But can you give us a flavour of the different responsibilities that you have as a chairman of a football club?
For me, as chairman, it's making sure that everybody that visits Bishop Lydeard Football Club has an experience to go away with that they can take and want to come back to Bishop Lydeard. Now, that's from referees right the way through to the opposition. So most of my Saturday afternoons on the home games are spent on the gate, making sure that everyone's welcome to the club, players, officials alike, and then making sure that everybody enjoys their afternoon and dealing with unnecessary behaviour on occasions, but making sure everybody goes away happy and wanting to come back to the football club. So that's the main. As far as the Tool Station Western is concerned, it's very well run, and it's a credit to all that are involved. Every club we travel to are welcoming, and they take a lot of time out to actually engage with you, which is a big difference from grassroots football.
So let's talk about your side's, your first team's performance on the pitch this season. You've been in fantastic goal-scoring form of late.
Of late we have. I think it's 15 in the last 3 games, which is superb. And it's the lads they've been putting a lot of effort in, and they're losing late on in games, and that can be said. But I think since the Cheddar game where we drew 1 each, they actually started to get a little bit of belief. We then faced Keynsham at home and were unlucky to lose by an odd goal. But of the last few weeks, the lads have certainly put a performance in, and there's a determination there for them to go up through the league and not be in the bottom half, if you like. So they're working hard behind the scenes. Brett and the coaching staff have got a morale there, and it's very easy when you're winning to carry on winning, but when you're in the rut and going down the table, it's difficult to get the morale going. But they've certainly done well to get everything back on track, and we're looking forward to the remainder of the season.
Well, the morale must be pretty good after Saturday's performance. 6-1 at home to Devizes. You must be very pleased with that result.
Extremely. To be fair to Devizes, they battled all the way through, and it could have been a closer result. There could have been a lot more goals, but for some great goalkeeping and great defending, really. So everything we touched turned to gold on Saturday. It's good to see.
And now you've got Wincanton away this Saturday. Now, that won't be easy for you.
No, Wincanton's never easy. There's always a good crowd there, backing their team. We just again, it's getting the lads in the right state of mind when they go out on the pitch with that will to win and grab another 3 points. So it's always a toughie at Wincanton. We played them in the county league many moons ago, and now we're meeting them in the Tool Station. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to it, and the hospitality at Wincanton's always great as well. So I'm looking forward to having a Saturday off, to be fair, and enjoying the game.
Now, I often have the pleasure through the podcast of talking to managers about some of the issues that are going on in grassroots football. From a chairman's perspective, what are the big challenges? What are the big issues that you think are facing the grassroots game?
Of the main, volunteers and keeping everything working is extremely difficult. In every club that we visit, there's always a few doing everything, and actually getting parents to commit, or not necessarily parents, but getting people to commit to coaching and fulfilling a season is becoming harder and harder and harder with people having to work weekends, etc. So, and I'm seeing that across the whole of the clubs that we visit, where there's 4 or 5 people doing everything all day. So I think volunteers is the main issue. It definitely for Bishop Lydeard Football Club.
I mean, one of the hot topics at the moment, we've seen this week that there's been an announcement made that sin bins will feature in the Western League for the first time next season. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a good move, and as a club we support it. So we've been lucky enough to see it in action with the Taunton District Saturday Football League, which is where our reserves playing their football this year, and it's been working. So we're seeing referees treated with a bit more respect, and to be fair, referees that come to Bishop Lydeard Football Club are always well supported. But the sin bin, I'm a great believer in getting the attitude right on the pitch, and actually from the dugout as well. So for me, I think it's a very positive step.
So for those people listening to this who aren't necessarily familiar with the concept of the sin bin, given that you've seen it working in action, it's very much a tool that's looking to address player dissent towards match officials. Is that the thrust of the initiative?
Yeah, 100%. What you'll find is once players see one player go and sit in the sin bin, the whole attitude towards the referee changes, and it actually allows the referee to concentrate on their game rather than concentrate on getting abuse. And it's a process that I believe that we need to go through just to gain that respect again.
One final question, Gary. Looking into the future, where do you see Bishop's Lydeard Football Club at the moment? Obviously, you're in the First Division. Do you have ambitions to progress into the Premier Division of the Western League, or is it more about consolidating what you've got going on as more holistically around the other sides involved with the club?
Our long-term game is to get our reserve side closer to our first team so that we can develop a full squad on a Saturday. And yes, of course, we want to develop into the Premier, and we want to go as far as we can, reminding ourselves that we are still a very small village club that I believe is punching above its weight at the moment. So aspirationally, yes. Financial-wise, then we've got to take stock of what we've got. Every penny we make as a club actually gets put back into the club and its facilities at this present time. So longer term, if we can get sponsorship and attract players that need to be paid, then fine. But at this moment in time, I think the current squad are more than capable of playing at that level with the support from the reserves. Now, on the ladies, we want to progress that as well. So we've got ambitions, but we've just got to remember that we don't want to be up one day and down the next. So we need to consolidate what we've got and plan for the future in playing in a higher league.
Well, Gary, thank you very much for your time today and sort of shining a light on what goes on at a Western League football club. I mean, I've been aware for some time that our clubs, although we focus on their Western League football, actually they have a number of other responsibilities in their local community, and the depth of football at your club, particularly what you described with the women's game as well, I think is such an important part of our national game, and it's great that your side gets some recognition for the work that you do.
this is grassroots football, and for me, it's about developing players at a very early age. And, we do lose players to higher clubs, but we encourage them to go and play at the level that they should be playing at. So that's one thing that we'll carry on doing. It's not nice losing players to other clubs, but at the end of the day, they deserve and they've got every right to move on. And I think that's evident, especially in the girls section with young Emily Simon, who was a big part of football at Bishop Lydeard, and she's now playing for England under-19. So, there's credit there to not only the coaches that have brought her through, but to Emily herself, who's worked really hard to progress her game.
That's great, Gary. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Ian.
There was a much closer affair between Calne Town and Keynsham Town. Of course, Keynsham fighting it out for the title at the top of the division. Calne, they've had a bit of a blip in their form recently, but this was a very close encounter.
Yeah, it was. Really, Keynsham will be pretty relieved to have come away with all 3 points in this one. And the victory coinciding with the other result at the top has meant they do go back to the top of the table. 1-0 victory away at Calne. The only goal coming on the hour mark with Harley Purnell, another man who I think scored straight from a free kick. Straight from a corner. That's the belief anyway. I think it was a windy afternoon, and his set piece ending up in the back of the Calne net to give Keynsham the slimmest of victories.
Well, we've been wondering in recent weeks where Chard Town have gone, because their form has taken a bit of a nosedive, but they certainly turned up at the weekend against a quality outfit in Cheddar.
Indeed, a 2-2 draw there at the Denning Sports Field between Chard and Cheddar. The away side going ahead inside 100 seconds through Adam Jones, obviously one of the most lethal strikers in the First Division. So he put his side ahead. But then, Chard managed to come back into it. Stephen Friend firing home from the penalty spot after 12 minutes to level things. And then Cheddar had a spot kick of their own. But Chris Coombs, thwarted by man of the match Scott Wells-Burr. He was making a number of saves. Looking at the running commentary on Saturday afternoon, he seemed to be keeping a lot of Cheddar opportunities out of the net. So he had a brilliant afternoon. Chard then did actually move ahead in the game. Friend scoring his second. With a well-taken volley. But Cheddar did manage to eventually beat the Chard keeper again. And it was Stephen Pennington heading home 15 minutes from time. And that was how it stayed. So an entertaining 2-2 draw between Chard and Cheddar.
And finally in the First Division, we finish off by looking at the battle of the basement between Radstock Town and Portishead. And, Portishead took a valuable 3 points.
Oh yeah, absolutely massive. Obviously, Radstock been doing okay recently, so Portishead needed this, and a 2-1 win away at their relegation rivals has moved them level on points with Radstock. Coming from behind in this one, Radstock going ahead after 13 minutes. Finn Haynes heading in across from Alex Fitzgerald, but then after Callum Eastwood had levelled the scores on the half-hour mark. Portishead managed to gain the winner, and it was James Steele who managed to score after 60 minutes to give Portishead their 4th win from 8. So they're doing pretty well at the moment, and moving on. I think they're up to 18th now.
So yes, we take a look into the future at the fixtures on Saturday, the 23rd of March. And what tickles your fancy in the Premier Division, Tom?
Well, I think I pinched this one ahead of you when you asked me earlier, so I think I'll stick with Westbury versus Plymouth Parkway. Obviously, Westbury has hit a bit of a rut recently, a couple of defeats, probably out of the running to finish top. But Plymouth Parkway very much that's not the case, of course. A big winning run, but I think that it's pretty obvious that this will be one of their tougher games to finish the season, and if they are to continue winning, well, fair play to them. But a game away at Westbury for Plymouth Parkway on Saturday afternoon should see how well they're doing recently.
Well, I've gone for Chipping Sodbury against Willand Rovers. By any other stretch of the imagination, this should really be a routine 3 points for our league leaders. But Chipping Sodbury have something of a reputation for taking significant scalps. Yes, over the course of this season, Chipping Sodbury in February beat Bitton at Bitton. and then in January beat Plymouth Parkway at Plymouth Parkway. So certainly when it comes to the big games, Chipping Sudbury don't have anything to fear from the teams at the top of the table. It'll be interesting to see how they get on against Willand at their place. Anyway, moving on then, Tom, and which game caught your eye in the First Division?
It's one of the top two. Seem to plump for them most weeks, but obviously they're the big games. We've got Keynsham, really tough trip away at Longwell Green Sports, who are now up in fourth. I mean, they've had a terrific turnaround, Longwell Green. Beaten 6-2 earlier by the same opponents earlier in the season. I'd find it hard to believe that we'll see a repeat of that. But yeah, Longwell Green up in fourth. Keynsham pressure on. With obviously their battle with Cheddar to finish top, going down to the wire by the looks of it. And a fascinating affair on Saturday afternoon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, I've also gone for a top-of-the-table clash. It's second against third when Cheddar take on Ashton and Backwell United. Win the game. It's the game in hand that Cheddar have over Keynsham, and of course that would put them back in the driving seat in the league. But Ashton and Backwell, I'm sure, will have a few things to say about that. Cheddar having that wobble last week away at Chard, and Ashton and Backwell also losing, so both sides desperate to address the results from the weekend, I'm sure. But I'm sure that will be a really good game. Cheddar, a good side as we know, and I did get a chance to see Ashton and Backwell earlier this season, and there's is certainly not a false league position. They are definitely a footballing side. Anyway, that concludes our roundup of the matches and the fixtures, and on this week's podcast we're going to be having a look at the hot shots, Tom. So who's hot and who's not?
Okay, so yeah, top goal scorers, little update. Premier Division, league goals only. We've got Jack Taylor, still top of the pops, 26 goals for Bridgewater so far this season. We've then got Callum Demkin, who obviously scored another one on the weekend. He's up to 23 league goals now for Westbury, and Luke Mortimer of Willand has 21. In the First Division, we've still got the Cheddar duo leading the way at the top, league goals. Adam Jones has 26, Adam Wright has 25, and then you've got Ashton and Backwell, Carl Townsend, they're centre forward. He's got 19 league goals this season, so having a terrific season. And then in all competitions, Mortimer of Willand, 32 goals in total for him, just ahead of Demkiv on 31 and Taylor on 30. So obviously those three doing well in both league and cup. And then we've also got Ben Bamman, as mentioned earlier. He's reached the 30 mark on the weekend as well. So yeah, and he's level with Taylor in third.
Excellent stuff, Tom. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Obviously, we're looking at your excellent bulletin, and that can be found on the Toolstation Western League website.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's on the homepage, and then there's also a tab along the top which should take you to the most recent article, which comes out most Sunday. Well, it comes out every week, but it's usually around Sunday lunchtime.
Excellent. And of course, you also pen your column for the non-league paper.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Premier Division Roundup, which goes in the Step 5 and 6 section, so that should be in the usual place.
Wonderful stuff, Tom. Thanks again for your assistance with this, and I look forward to speaking to you and reflecting on a bit of Western League football that I'm hoping to see, weather permitting, next weekend when we catch up on the Toolstation Western League podcast.